is The Spotlight, bringing you the best of arts and education entertainment here in St. Lucie Public Schools. I'm Kevin Perry, your host for the show, and we have a very exciting show planned for you today as we talk about arts education in Black History Month and their contributions to American society. From Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, all the way to Ella Fitzgerald, Leontine Price, and Miles Davis. They have all made countless contributions to the fabric of America. So what's so special about the month of February? Well, since 1926, it was started as Black History Week by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, earned PhD, noted scholar and academician from Harvard University. It evolved into Black History Month. And since 1976, every U.S. president has proclaimed the month of February as Black History Month. This year's theme is Hallowed Grounds, Sites of African American Memories, taking us all to those wonderful sites that contributed much to African and American history. It could be 125th Street in Harlem, or the famous Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. Maybe it was Sweet Auburn in Atlanta, Georgia. But even on those avenues, even in those cities, African Americans in the arts made major contributions. And here today to help us note those contributions are four fabulous educators here in St. Lucie County. And at this time, we're going to have them introduce themselves. My wonderful friends, welcome to the show.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. August, would you please introduce yourself briefly to our viewing audience and let them know where you work and the subjects that you teach, please?
My name is Gene August. I'm the band director at Fort Pierce Westwood, and I teach band.
Mona Ray?
My name is Mona Ray Buchanan. I'm the assistant principal at Centennial High School, and I coach Eagle Dance Team.
Mr. Rabbit?
I am George Ramming. I'm the choir director at Lincoln Park Academy.
And Mr. Mealy?
Hi, I'm Donald Mealy. I'm the choir director at Fort Pierce Westwood High School.
Now, before we go on with the show, I want our viewing audience to know that this weekend here at Northport Middle School is the Solo and Ensemble Festival for our students that are in bands. So you can go out and hear those students play and also be rated. Tonight we start with jazz bands, and on Friday and Saturday you will be see small ensembles and student solos as well. And Mr. Ramming, if I'm not mistaken, next week is the Choral Solo and Ensemble Festival. You want to tell us a little bit about that, please?
Right. It's the Florida Vocal Association District 13 Solo and Ensemble Music Performance Assessments, which will be held at South Fork High School in Stewart. We will start on Friday afternoon, roughly about 3 o'clock, and it'll go on until Saturday evening, 6, 7 o'clock.
Now, all of you educators are heavily involved in the arts. And we just can jump in here and tell me, why is it important to encourage every student to participate in any area of the arts?
Well, I think that it makes the student well-rounded. It covers all the gamut of the curriculum, from math, science, English, and of course it also encourages teamwork. It helps foster social skills, those type of things that all students need to have.
So, Mr. August, if you had an opportunity to speak to parents, what would you say to parents to encourage them to make sure that their students participate in a music, art, dance, or theater?
Well, music brings out their creativity. It gives them another way of thinking. It gives them a sense of security. It helps them move forward. It helps them with their other classes. So if you're looking for a group that would foster success in a child and bring them a comfort within themselves, music, the arts is the place to go.
Mr. Mealy, it is apparent that everyone sitting at the table has a passion for the arts. What is it that drives you, and what is this passion that pushes you forward to do the things that you do for students in education, but specifically in the arts?
Well, for me, it is the students themselves. For me, that passion began for me in high school myself, when Mr. Ramming, if I may use him, encouraged me to get into choral music. And from there, that's where that passion began for me. And so I remember those things and those times when I was in school. So when I'm in the classroom every day, I look across in the classroom and I see myself sitting in the same chairs as those students are sitting. And so someone saw something in me. And so I'm sitting here today because someone saw something in me, Mr. Little did. And so when I'm in the classroom and I'm looking at students, I see me sitting there. So I'm pushing them because I'm pushing myself. So that's that passion, that drive for me.
Ms. Buchanan, now you're the assistant principal at Centennial, but you're working with all of these wonderful people in the arts, and you've been doing that for years, specifically coaching Eagle Dance. And what is it that you hope your students would obtain by participating in dance?
Well, I think the most important aspect of even being in the arts, it's the discipline factor. You have to be not only focused in what you need to do, but you have to apply an insurmountable amount of discipline. You have to be able to also transfer some of these skills to other subject areas. And that's probably the most important thing about the arts, because a lot of what you do is transferable to any subject area. So you're learning how to even memorize lines, or you're learning a choreography, and you are actually training your brain, you're training yourself to really be able to, absorb all this information. So those are transferable skills.
Okay, it's Black History Month, and we know that African Americans have made countless contributions to the fabric of America, especially in the arts. As I mentioned earlier, Miles Davis, Alvin Ailey, Leontine Price, Duke Ellington. If we were to visit your classrooms, what would we hear, or what would we see in the areas of spirituals or hymns or jazz that would resemble the works of African Americans? Mr. Ramey?
I try to incorporate the Negro spirituals into everything that we do. Basically, in all my programming, I try to make sure that that is included within the program. Why? Because I think it's really, really important. It's important. It's an important part of music itself, choral music itself. So we're preparing for solo and ensemble, and so each one of my ensembles does have one of the selections that is a Negro spiritual. I think what the Negro spiritual offers, the history behind it, what it has to offer, actually stylistically speaking, the music itself, the way that it's structured, works very well for helping them as far as understanding how music is written, and the lyrics themselves tells the story, so you have history behind it as well. So I try to incorporate as much as I can.
Mr. Mealy, when we're talking about the different genres of music that students can study and be exposed to, the spirituals, as Mr. Ramey mentioned, is one of them. Is there anything else that goes along with African American history, or hymns or something like that that our students may be exposed to in our classrooms through our curriculum?
Well, as along with spirituals, of course, the one thing that a lot of students know is gospel music. That goes with that. So we incorporate because, as Mr. Ramey stated before, I mean, I also, all of my ensembles are also doing spirituals. But with gospel music, when it comes to that, R&B, we hit the whole gamut of genres of music in our classrooms.
So I would venture to say that not only are your students in your vocal programs learning the classics, if I will, European classics, but they're also venturing out in rhythm and blues and some jazz. They're doing some choreography with your show choirs. They're spirituals and hymns, as you already mentioned, as well as gospel. I think we have some footage from your choir, Mr. Ramey. Can you tell us what this song is?
This particular piece is entitled "Walk in Jerusalem," and it's interesting that you should mention that, because this particular piece is about the Negro spiritual. It's written by Rollo A. Dilworth, and Rollo Dilworth, what he does is he kind of infuses gospel in the Negro spiritual. So you get a little bit of the Negro spiritual, but you also have that gospel flavor that's added in it, which really makes it quite interesting. It's a new concept that's coming about. A lot of composers are beginning to do it. So you'll hear it when you listen to the students.
And what's the name of the piece again?
Walk in Jerusalem.
Let's take a minute and listen to the Lincoln Park Academy Rhapsody singing Walk in Jerusalem. Excellent job by the Lincoln Park Academy Rhapsody Choir singing Walk in Jerusalem. Now, Miss Buchanan, tell us, how does a assistant principal coach dance, and what's happening with Eagle Dance?
Well, presently we're working on being a part of the Black History Month show. Everyone at our school, including our band director or drama teacher, as well as our chorus director, Ms. Rios, we're all collaborating and ensuring that we're putting something on not just for the students in the school, but for the community, to really bring to life what Black History Month is all about, as well as educate the students within the school and the community about the history.
So when we see Eagle Dance, is their work reminiscent of some type of dance, be it modern, be it classical?
Modern. Our piece that we're working on for this show is modern and lyrical, with a focus on really illustrating the struggles that a lot of African American artists have been through, and also going back and giving a bit of the history. You know, Martin Luther King, what his contributions were to the Black American people, and really digging deep and illustrating that, you know, there is so much that Black Americans have obviously given to the world of arts, and highlighting that within our show, and then having that conversation in the classroom and outside the classroom about everything that has happened within our culture.
So when we see Eagle Dance, how is Eagle Dance performance going to be reminiscent of the work of the Dance Theater of Harlem or Alvin Ailey's troupe, Judith Jamison? How is that reminiscent of that kind of work?
Well, talking about Judith Jamison, I was talking to one of the students the other day about the fact she did a 15-minute solo called Cry, and it's epic. But it was dedicated to Black American women. And of course, my Eagle dancers, I have no males on the team. However, they need to be able to relate to such an artist. They need to be able to now go and research someone like Judith Jamison and see where has she come from, what is she doing, and maybe even mimic some of that on stage. But to really, really understand that it's not just simply being on stage and dancing or going through 8 counts or going through a routine. It's feeling those words and bringing it to life on stage. I want them to be connected to our culture.
I think that's applicable in vocal music, in instrumental music, in dance. It's all about telling the story of
Absolutely.
what goes on so that you have to relate and you have to emote. Let's take a pause right now and watch Eagle Dance. And what are they performing, Ms.
They're
McKinney?
performing Glory. It's from the soundtrack Martin Luther King, Walk on Washington. It's actually sang by Common and John Legend, who are today's 2 of our most famous, you know, not rap, but R&B artists. So they're illustrating what happened in history, but they're also someone the kids can relate to because they're artists of today.
Here's Eagle Dance performing Glory.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, the spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots be on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, now the war is over, victory is won. We'll fight on to the finish, and when it's all done, we'll cry
Thank you, Eagle Dance. Excellent portrayal of Glory using modern and lyrical dance. Now, Mr. August, that brings us to you. What's happening in the instrumental world as it relates to African Americans and their contributions to the arts in America?
Well, in our program, we discuss a lot of what Wynton Marsalis is doing with today's youth, with the JLC.
And what's JLC?
Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Okay.
Jazz at Lincoln Center. Well, we discuss the program that he has there and how it's been helping and how we can strive to actually performing with their group in one day. We also discuss the works of Duke Ellington. We've been working on a piece, Sea Jam Blues. and working on improv, and we were noticing that, how all the artists were just coming in and just playing. It didn't even matter the instrument. Everybody just sat in. Even the violin was there. Roy Nance was playing the violin. But we were trying to celebrate the stuff that Duke Ellington was doing, the differences that he had between him and Count Basie, him and Jimmy Lunsford that time period.
Okay, okay. So your students are studying, just like in vocal music, the classics, as well as some jazz and contemporary artists as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So how would we see that or hear that, or what would they tell us if we were to talk to any of those students about that kind of work?
My students would actually say, this is hard. They would say, this is hard, but they really enjoy learning the blues. They really enjoy learning what how the sounds are just different, the different scales that are being used, in learning the idea that W.C. Handy brought in with the sliding of the notes, is just enjoying that and being able to just create and be able to say something.
And it's amazing how we see the sliding of the note over in instrumental music, but we also hear the sliding of the note over in vocal music. Now, Mr. Mealy, I know that you have a choir that we're going to take a listen to called Encore. Can you tell us what this song is that Encore is going to perform?
They'll be performing Wade in the Water by Moses Hogan, which is a Negro spiritual, of course, written by Moses Hogan, with Jaleel Robinson during the solo.
At this time, let's take a quick break and listen to the wonderful Westwood High School Encore singing Wade in the Water.
God's are gonna trouble.
Excellent job by Westwood High School Encore singing Wade in the Water. It's been a pleasure having the opportunity to talk to all four of you about the contributions of African Americans in the arts, but also the contributions that you are doing by training your students in all forms, not just focusing on one style or genre of music or dance, but making sure that they have a well-rounded education and making sure that they also know that these are contributions that African Americans have made to the arts. And because of that, because we already talked with Ms. Amelia about the passion that's evident when we look at you and listen to you and see you work with students and hear you talk, you gotta have some favorites in your area. You just have to have some favorites in your area. So we're gonna start with you, Mr. August. Tell me, who is your favorite artist, performer that you're using in your class, and briefly why?
That's a little more difficult because there's different styles. I have favorites for different styles. In jazz, my favorite all-time, Clifford Brown. Clifford Brown, he has an amazing sound, and he's very melodic with his improvisation. But when you're talking about classical, my favorite is Wynton Marsalis. He's a perfectionist. He's the epitome of what a musician should be.
And Wynton was be mine because of his ability to go between
Both jazz and classical. He goes between all of them. He's a phenomenal musician.
Miss Buchanan in dance.
Presently, Misty Copeland.
Oh, Misty, she's taking the world by storm.
She is. And I believe it's important for our young ladies, or especially African American young ladies, to realize that, you know, looking at Misty Copeland's life, she grew up in a single family home. She had 5 siblings. She started to dance at 13. Usually people, especially where she is now, because she's the first African American lady who she's actually performing for the American Ballet Theater. And she has the principal role. This is the first in history. And to really think of how far we've come, especially when you're thinking about ballet, the stereotypical, ballet dancer, she has broken that stereotype, and she's being embraced by all audience. She is by far one of my favorite.
Mr. Raming, briefly.
I would say my favorite would be Kathleen Battle, and even though she's been taken off the circuit, it still does not take away the fact that she is a phenomenal performer, the best that there is.
And Mr. Mealy.
I would say right now, because we were studying her in class, was Marian Anderson, because of the things that she faced, and when it comes to her ability, her range of being contralto and getting into that mezzo soprano kind of that range, she's my favorite, one of my favorites right now.
Thank you all for joining us here on the Spotlight, where we put the focus on the arts and education. During Black History Month, we are specifically focusing on arts education and the contributions of those African Americans to the areas of the arts. Not just African American history, but it's American history. Thank you, and we'll see you next time here on the Spotlight.